All right.
Okay.
I'm not really sure.
Well, I'll get started.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming today. This is LisaMarie's defense, but in our department we see the thesis defense as a celebration of the students' work. And so what we'll do is have LisaMarie make a brief presentation. Then the committee members, myself, Dr. Klein, Dr. Corral, will ask questions, and then we will open up for questions from all our guests. And then we will ask everyone except for the committee to step out for a little bit, and we'll wrap up. So LisaMarie, it's all yours.
Okay. All right. So thank you for coming and supporting me, and thank you very much. Thank you very much. You guys are all wonderful teachers, and I couldn't have done this without you. So a little bit of background is I've been working on my master's degree for about 4 years now. For about 4 years, and I had to take a brief hiatus from the writing department because of my work. I needed to get certified in other things for my job. Well, in doing that, I found a whole new world in science because I was previously an English teacher and now I teach science. And it started opening up many different avenues for me. And it really became a huge enlightening experience. So when I decided to come back to the writing department, and I had talked to Dr. Cox, I was like, you know, this is my idea. I kind of want to document this journey that I've been going on for a few years. And so that's what the blog compilations are. It's kind of like a way for me to express myself in new ways because I'm pretty much old school when it comes to writing. But now with technology and everything, decided to do the blog. And so the final is just an adaptation of that.
Sorry.
That's still good. So anyway, when I sit down to think about like process writing and things like that, and even what I teach my students, it always for me starts with some kind of inspiration or you know, that leads to invention, and then through that I just start going for it. So I was really kind of shy to nail down, okay, I'm an expressivist writer and this is what I do, because I do many different I kind of have many theories going on, you know, at the same time. Thank you, baby. So there's a little bit of cognitive theory in there where I think it kind of goes hand in hand with that whole spiritual enlightenment also because of the fact that, you know, just to sit back and think. And I remember in rhetorical theory classes talking about who am I and why am I here, and that's how these discussions started. And then from there it became, you know, nothing but discourse, back and forth, back and forth. So the blog was an excellent approach, I think, to this because I didn't include the feedback, but I got so much feedback from readers I know and then readers that I don't know. And so that was a really cool part of this.
LisaMarie, let me just jump in. For those who haven't read it, tell us what the blog is exactly.
Okay, well, the blog is on WordPress.com, and basically what I've done is I've taken Pam Grout's work, who talks about quantum physics and provides 9 experiments to proving that the universal laws exist, and it's for any person can basically do these experiments, and it's just basically evidence that this does exist. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic, it doesn't matter if you're Christian, Buddhist, it doesn't matter, because when it boils down to it, we're all one and the same. Different paths to the same future, basically. So I would do the experiments at home, I would document them, and then I would go in and I would blog about the experience. And then I would also ask for feedback or other people to read the book. I had about 3 really good followers that did the experiments along with me also. Did that answer that? All right, so I guess what I'll do is I'll just read one of my blogs now, and this is from experiment number 3. Thank you, sis. And it says, 3 years ago when my youngest son was born, I lived in a beautifully antiquated and spirited home. Since I was a little girl, I've always known there were spirits that are around us. I haven't gotten so far as to acknowledge the whys of the situation, but undoubtedly they exist as much as the rest of us. Like the rest of the world, when I had encounters of the different kind, I would shrug it off and usually be able to come up with some kind of rational explanation for whatever it was that happened. So the events that catapulted me into action with my own spirituality and life were so heavily displayed that I couldn't ignore them, as I did for so many years. I'm not talking about crazy exorcist shit, but I'm telling you that my wonderful little abode was thriving with spirit life. So much that I bet if you ask any of my family, friends, ex-husbands, ex-boyfriends, my children, or my children's babysitters, they would be able to tell you some kind of paranormal experience that occurred in my house. I remember a couple of years ago, a friend of mine, Doreen, and her boyfriend were at my house watching my kids while I worked. The moment I received her text, I knew what I was in for. Holy shit, dude, is what I read. The words screaming at me. Spirit. Dude, call now, was the follow-up text. So I excused myself from the classroom. Sorry, but how could I ignore something in all caps? The conversation was pretty exciting, and basically it went like this. What's up? Me. Dude, I was putting a diaper on Farron, and then the dog kept barking and barking. I came into the living room, and this toy, oh my God, dude, this toy floated up off the coffee table and flew across the room and hit the dog. I told you, dude, I so told you. I told you there are spirits in my house. I had to go back into work, so I kept it as short as possible, but an hour later I received another text with just as much excitement from Doreen. She explained that everyone was sitting outside my house playing in the yard and trying to forget what they had just experienced. She was pretty freaked out by the whole thing. When they came back into the house, there was a bag sitting perfectly posed in the middle of my living room, unzipped, and its contents were just thrown around it. Doreen asked Guy if he had come in and got that bag and posed it up like that to scare her after the previous events and saw the bag that they were talking about. He denied doing so. Well, that bag was hidden deep, deep in my closet, being stored there since I moved into the house. One of my most real experiences with spirits was one morning I was up and getting ready in the bathroom. I have 3 kids. My oldest, Haley Rose, or to us, she goes by Bubbies. At that time, she was around 17, and my middle child, my son Gavin, was 4. The baby Fairy was nearly 2. While I was rushing to ready myself for the day, I was curling my hair with my right hand, and out of my peripheral vision, plain as day, I saw my niece, Lexi, walk by in the same clothes I saw her a couple days before. Now, you see, I've done a lot of things in my day, and as age quickens to me, I tend to forget many things, but over and over in my head, I had to ask myself, did Lexi stay the night last night? How did she get here? While I wrestled with these thoughts for almost 30 seconds, Gavin came walking out of my bedroom into the hallway, wiping the sleep from his eyes. He stood there and then looked over at me. Mama? Yeah, son? I returned, so I thought, to planet Earth. He said with a confused look, what is BB's doing here? BB's is my son's nickname for Lex. Oh, no, that was Bubby's, I said with urgency as not to scare him or really have to explain this event. Mama, I looked up and Bubby's was standing over Gavin in the hallway. No, it wasn't. It was BB's, Gavin insisted, especially since Bubby's, his sister, had woken up and walked into the hallway after him. I forgot how we approached the rest of the morning. I think because we were all so busy and hurried, so the experience just went away. Or maybe by this time we were so numb to the paranormal occurrences. Whichever the case, later that day I spoke to my daughter and ex-husband about the happening. It was so odd, so real, and so weird that this spirit took the looks of my 13-year-old niece, and that we were all right there in the little hallway area to witness it all together. Needless to say, when I moved into that house, Farron was a newborn, 6 weeks old. We continued making memories in that house for 3, almost 4 years before I decided to move back to my parents' house. The house still calls my name almost every day. I have to catch myself calling my landlord and friend Missy, and stop myself from asking her if we can move back in. Regardless of the hour-long drive to Gavin's school near my parents' house, I believe this house is still alive. Hi, dude. So, anyway, it goes on to talk about these occurrences, and then later on it kind of ties into the whole energy and quantum physics and how we're all on this plane, but we share this plane with many things, you know, and really there's no right or wrong way to look at it. I don't know. I guess with the blogs, I felt a little bit more freedom with my words, whereas in the companion piece, it was a little bit more academic. And I like writing both ways, so
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. Let's give her a hand. Committee. Karen?
I'll jump down to notes about a couple of them.
Okay.
Okay, so you said in your abstract that this thesis demonstrates the benefits of expressivist theory as part of the writing process. What do you believe those benefits are?
The benefits to me of the expressivist theory is stylistic, voice, that whole personal experiential approach, being unfiltered, free thought, just pure freedom. I believe the benefits of that is having no judgment to a certain extent until later on in the process, you know, kind of just feeling good about your writing.
Mm-hmm. So, based on this experience, do you have recommendations for other writers or teachers of writing, either with respect to blogging or with respect to using expressivist pedagogies?
Definitely, and I think that's one thing that Kathleen Blake Yancey talks about, is rallying all of these rhetoricians together and coming up with some kind of cohesiveness, because right now in the rhetorical world, it's all about, you know, this sucks, do this, don't do this, go back to this. And I believe that no matter what, whenever I go to work and I have to teach my students, process is always going to come up. You're always going to get the pre-writing, the sharing, the drafting, the revision, and all of that. But before you even do all of that, you have to have some kind of inspiration. And I believe expressivism kind of does that. It takes the formal out of it, especially when you're in a place like this. You know, it takes kind of the load off. You don't have to, with expressivist writing, you don't really have to, I don't know all of the right words. Mm-hmm. You could be yourself. And I feel like instead of scaring people into, you have to do it this way, I believe that expressivism allows students to kind of take control of their own process.
So do you use activities like this in your science classes?
Every single day.
Give us an example.
Okay, every single day I'll have some kind of quote on the board, and I use it more as a bell ringer. And the kind of students I teach have behavioral and emotional disabilities. So a lot of them are very angry. And I feel like since I've been doing this, and then I'll go back and read it, and I won't share it with anyone, but it allows them to open up to me to where I can understand where they're coming from. But yeah, every single day I open with a quote, and they have 5 minutes to just rap, write, express themselves. Really.
Cool. Thank you.
I've got 3 questions, and an apology. So I read very carefully the first iteration, but I just got back from Oregon, so I haven't seen the latest iteration. So I selfishly, first of all, I thought I'd just ask you, have you sort of addressed, by the way, I thought the whole thing was very, very interesting. But for me, with the first iteration, I had a little trouble picking up on what you're doing with physics, and the very fact that you were a science teacher. So
Yeah.
have you done something to front that a little bit? So
Yeah.
you understand?
Yeah, I know. I figured you would think that was weird because English was my life since I was a little kid.
I was surprised, actually.
Yeah. So am I still.
Yeah.
I know it's weird. I hate math and I hate science, and I've been wanting to be a writer since I was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so weird because I graduated, went right into this department, writing, teaching English, teaching AP literature, and then all of a sudden I get a call from a friend, and she's like, hey, I gave your resume to someone, I think you really need to go check this job out. And so I left at that time I was at Jacksonville High School, and I left and I went over to Pinnacle Point Hospital, and I got the job right away, talked to my boss, and I thought I was going to be teaching writing or English, and the English teacher has been there for like 25 plus years, and so she's like, well, we really need a science teacher, and I was like, I don't know anything about science at all, and so it was quite an experience. So in getting my special ed certification, I could pretty much teach anything, you know, special ed. So I went ahead and did it. And every year I'm like, teach English, teach English. But then now that it's progressing, I started getting into teaching biology to 10th graders, physical science to 9th graders, a little bit of physics for our upper level kids. And then that led me to, along with the documented experiences in my life, questioning, you know, all kinds of things. And so the science, it kind of gave me the knowledge to be able to go, oh, okay, that's what energy is. Oh, okay, you know, that's how we're all made. And so that's how that all came about. And I'm still teaching science now. So yeah,
so
it's
that's
crazy.
kind of funded a little bit more so you reader understand.
Yes,
I'll
we went and revised and put a lot of that in the conclusion.
Yeah.
We put it up at the forefront
Right.
to
I
kind of
noticed
show
that. Yeah.
mhm,
Good deal.
how I went from point A to point B to Z.
So very interesting, LisaMarie. But I had two more questions. First of all, it's about the medium. So do you think blogging itself sort of promotes expressive discourse?
I definitely do. Just with the act of the audience alone, just with the instant contact with them or feedback or conversation with them, I think blogging especially, and I hate it, I never did a blog before this. When I get on the computer, it's to listen to music or write on Microsoft Word. Like I'm pretty much old school. And so when the blog first appeared, I was really kind of apprehensive about it. But then as time went on, everything kind of just fell in place. And especially with that discourse between me and the audience, because I found myself calling him a lot. I'm confused myself. You know, you write something down and you go back to read it later and you're like, is anyone going to understand? You know, it kind of leaves a big hole after a minute. But then when you get that advice from your audience, or hey, I went through something like this, or they share their experiences with me, it kind of comes full circle. And I think blogging nowadays is the best way to do that.
Yeah.
It's big. Tumblr is really big. I know my daughter tumbles every day. And I think it's a great way. I think nowadays everybody's a writer. Everyone can be a writer.
So I have just one more question. So I'm interested in physics.
Okay.
I'm not a physicist, but I've always wanted to interest you.
Okay.
And my question is, I'm trying to figure out a way to put this so it's not confusing. Does your thinking about physics act as a heuristic for you as you write these blog posts? That is, does it lead to almost the invention sometimes of the blog text?
I think that it always exists, whether I realize it or not, because of the fact once you learn that knowledge, you can't unlearn it.
Yeah.
And so definitely, because of the things that I say, how kind of mind-blowing or weird they might be, for lack of better words, I always have that physics to back me up, and you
Yeah.
can't argue with science.
It almost
So
felt to me at times as like you need to pull stuff out of you, sort of.
I think definitely, especially with Pam Grout's work, because
Right.
she uses that, you know, as I think her jumping board. And so I definitely think I do too. I don't think I would have written this, and you know, from 4 years ago when I've tried to do something, it's a 180. It's totally different than how I used to think, and I owe it all to physics, science.
One last question.
Mhm.
I promise 3, but it's 4. So, as I understand physics, the big question is, do we look at it in terms of big or small? Small being quantum physics, big being relativity. Do you find either one of those to be especially important to you in terms of your thinking and blogging?
I believe that you can't have one without the other. And as far as that goes, I would say the quantum physics would be the larger for me anyway.
That sense,
But you have to have the preliminary knowledge down, you know, the law of conservation.
Right.
We're all energy. We all exist. Energy is not created nor destroyed.
Right.
Okay, well, we do something.
Yeah.
And so I would say there's going to be a lot more documenting, a lot more sharing, especially now that I'm over with this part, you know. And I believe that it's going to have a lot to do with science in the future for me, you know.
By the way, just one comment, I think you did a great job in the
Thank you. That was fun. It was actually fun to write that.
Yeah.
The research, because I stepped away for quite a long time. And then to get Yancey and, you know, all of these people that I hadn't heard their names in so long, it was neat researching that part.
I enjoyed reading it.
Made me feel like a student again.
Yes. Are we all?
Yeah.
Well, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
The first has to do with the role of audience in blogging.
Okay.
You mentioned that when you started this, there were 2 or 3 people who found your blog and responded to you. I'm curious if the presence or the possible presence of that audience, did that have any effect on your invention and your process
Yeah,
of
the
writing?
process. Yeah. Because of the starting and stopping, freaking out, oh my God. If it wasn't for the few readers that got on there and gave me words of encouragement, when I didn't even ask for it, you know, at the end, you know, just the fact that it was understood by somebody, it was really, really cool. And it led me to more and more and more, writing more and more and more, you know. So I think, I don't know if I could have done this without that instant discourse. I don't think I've tried before, sit down to write a book or whatever, you know, or a poem even. And I think without your readers, you want to, I think I go through life constantly wanting to be understood, you know, and I think with that, it gave me the confidence and the boost that I needed to continue with it. So it definitely helped me invent day after day after day, or continue, inspired me.
So do you think maybe using blogs in the classroom might help those students who are, they come in with the mind frame, I'm just writing for the teacher,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or I'm just writing just to fulfill the assignment.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe using blogs might help to encourage the personal expression, but also give them the opportunity to say, well, I'm writing for someone who might read this.
Exactly, and that's what's great. This year I'm teaching my 4 science classes, but I get to also teach like a journal class, a journalism class. So it's the first time I get to teach writing to my students. And I definitely think that I will, you got both aspects there. You got technology, which kids love, you know, they hate this and they hate this, you know, and so you bring them into a computer lab and tell them to go to town. I think definitely that the blog with the technology is going to open up many doors, especially for the types of students that I teach, you know. And I will use it this year.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
My last question is, what are your plans for the blog now?
It's still up and running. I do my Saturday update, and every day something pops into my head, like, okay, I believe that I'm going to continue it. And that's what I was telling my mom, you know, I can write. I can just write now. It's not for a grade, it's not for my master's, it's not for anybody else but for me.